What is up, everyone? This is Press X to Review Horizon Forbidden West. Press X to Review is an audio and video podcast where we review games. So today, as I said, we're going to review Horizon Forbidden West. Just so you know, this is going to be 100% spoilers off the rip, so you've been warned. I am your host, DJ, a.k.a. Sexy Bad Choices, a.k.a. Zoe's better than Aloy, right? She's better than Aloy. Like,
I mean,
100%.
Nah, you guys can join that club.
All right, who else is here?
I am Sean MF Ross.
What the MF stand for?
I'm still King Bougie.
Oh, okay.
Everybody go watch it now.
It's an anime, in case you don't know what King Bougie is.
Ranking of Kings. And bring a handkerchief. Prepare to shed a tear.
Oh, no. And then last up?
I'm Avery.
All right. Now you know who we are. Let's get into it. All right. Avery, you beat this game first, so you give us your 1-minute impressions on how you felt with the entire game.
My experience with this game was in Avery fashion, sort of a roller coaster of emotions. I started playing the game and I just didn't like it. I wasn't feeling it. I was like, this is way too much like Zero Dawn. Like, they haven't really changed, done anything new or interesting. I'm just kind of bored playing this. Not bored as in I don't want to play this game anymore. Bored as like I'm waiting for it to click. And then the game was always good mechanically. It was just like I just wasn't feeling the game. And then I got out of the first area. I got more to exploration, and then the game kept opening up, and introducing new more things, and the story kept making more and more choices. And I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. I'm really enjoying this game. And then I got to the ending. I finished it the first one of the group. I got to the ending, and I'm like, oh, I'm really satisfied with this game. Then I did the platinum run, and I'm like, oh, I fucking hate this game because some of the choices in the platinum trophy is just fucking weird. But ultimately, I've come out of this game feeling the exact same way I feel about Horizon 1. It's for me, it's hard to say that this game is on paper better than Horizon 1.
Mm-hmm.
But its mistakes, or at least mistakes in design, put it on par with Horizon 1. And it doesn't really hit this is like unequivocally a better game than Horizon 1 to me.
Gotcha. All right, Sean?
I don't know if I can rank the two like that. I'm not
you just give your impressions.
Yeah, no. I just mean as far as like placing one above the other, I'm not that critical of either of them. From the minute I first got that Poolcaster, I was like, oh yeah, this is my shit right here. It didn't take that long to click for me. I didn't really care about the story initially, like Avery said though. Up until you see some people.
Oh, this is all spoilers. It's all spoilers.
Okay, well, up until you see the strangers, that's what they're calling the game. Up until you see the strangers, like, oh, okay, this is my shit. I need more. I just feel like they ramped up the difficulty so much.
Mm-hmm.
At least in terms of like, I don't remember Aloy being this. Like when you get hit, you get stunned. Like her recovery time. It's significantly increased since the first game, but overall, 9 out of 10 would play it again.
Okay, yeah. I'm kind of along the same lines as you two. The beginning didn't really take me out of the experience because I was mainly using that to remember how to play this game because I didn't play was it Frozen Wilds or whatever, that DLC. So it's been a long time since I've played any kind of Horizon. So yeah, I was just pressing buttons, jumping, figuring out like how Aloy moves in this world now. So once I got out that main section, it was like, all right, I'm just gonna go kill some robots and do the thing that Aloy does. And then, as you two were talking about, like you get to the Hades proving ground, and like the twist happens. Like, because up until this point, like you are just trying to figure out this ecological disaster. Like that's what Aloy's trying to do, and then more stuff happened, and just like, oh man, and I was just like, oh man, this is crazy. And I feel like this game did a really, really good job of ramping up that crazy.
Yeah.
And like I absolutely just I enjoyed this game. I definitely did have my critiques here and there with the over. I didn't really have any critiques with the story because it was a lot of just like, all right, what's gonna happen now? Like, what's gonna happen now? Like, there was a couple of scenes where just like, this is kind of weird that no one's really taking any action when this person is just presented to them. But I just kind of went with it. Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this game. I love the ending, and I cannot wait to see how the next game, Horizon Destiny, is going to work out because it is going to be crazy. So yeah, okay. So that's our very, very overall top of the line impressions on this game. So Avery, you kind of talked about it, and then we can actually have a deeper discussion about this story in relation to or compared to Zero Dawn's story. So Zero Dawn's story. Oh, go ahead, Avery. You can go ahead.
No, it's. I think this story is good. I don't think it's great. I remember playing Horizon Zero Dawn and getting to the end of that game, and it's like main A plot about what was Zero Dawn and the ancestors and all that, being like, mind blown. This is so profound. Yeah. I got to the end of this game, and I just kept asking. I was left wanting a lot in regards to like its story, because the first Zero Dawn has a very relatively straightforward sci-fi plot, and they focus on one thing: how does this world exist? Forbidden West is dealing with the aftermath of Zero Dawn, so still dealing with the aftermath of that sci-fi plot, and then it introduces Far Zenith as another sci-fi plot, and then it keeps jumping things on top of Far Zenith while adding more stuff, more weird sci-fi plots to the other parts of the story, and then adds one giant insane sci-fi plot on top of everything else. And like I described the story as sort of gonzo in that like it's just throwing shit at the wall, and like it's ultimately how you feel. Like in the moment, I'm like, oh, these are all cool ideas. But like taking a step back, looking at everything, I'm like, all right, I need you guys to focus on maybe one of these ideas as the overarching plot of this game, and not like throw 10 at me at worst at the same time, because it overloads what I think is some of the cooler parts of this story and not giving things to breathe. Like, for example, I love Far Zenith. I love
that idea.
That indeed is fucking great. I remember the minute the first mission starts and they start talking about the fucking Odyssey, and I'm like, oh, this is the plot. And then it comes out like, oh, this is the plot. And they kept going through. I'm like, oh, this is great. But it gets to a point where I'm like, outside of Eric killing a main character, and then you occasionally seeing a Far Zenith person, like maybe, I think at least once outside of their introduction, they don't really do a lot. In fact, I found their base on accident really early on in the game, and I'm like, I guess I know where the end game is. And
so here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let me just jump in real quick. I didn't. Did you like travel to the base?
No, I didn't try and go into the base. I just saw it in the distance, and I'm like, oh, this is where the base is going to be.
Yeah. So like I was on top of some mountain in this game because the draw distance is just insane, and I fucking love it. And I was just rotating the camera, and I saw this weird thing out in the distance. Like,
what the fuck is that?
What the hell is that? And I was like, what is that? And I was just like, that is so different from everything. I was like, oh, that's Far Zenith. Like that. Like that's where the whole like command shit is. I was like, oh my god, that's like I loved it. Like to be able to just find that naturally just in the wild. It was really cool.
You can see it from pretty far up north. I was actually going to post a picture thinking that was a settlement, but it was actually I was like, yo, look at this draw distance.
Right.
Not realizing that kind of would have been a spoiler at the time.
Right.
And it's one of those things where, like, I think this is a game that is more at odds with its open world design in regards to its narrative, in that certain things like the entire Regala situation. Regala shows up essentially 3 times in the game. But if you're straight forwarding the plot, that's in relatively short. Not well. If you
mainline the main quest,
if you mainline the main plot and do the ether mission,
if you do it in order, you'll see.
If you don't do it in order, it's a more balanced narrative with Regala, because then she shows up. She's not there for a bit. Then she shows up at the end of the Hikaru thing, and then you do a couple more missions, and then she shows up one more time. But other than that, you'll go.
I think that's how I did it.
If you did Hikaru, the Aether mission as the last of the four, of the three, that's that's the one where you do
Memorial Hall.
The Memorial Hall and the Tanakh Chief.
Yeah, you're in like the museum area, and you see like the flight of the 10.
Yeah.
Then she'll have a more balanced appearance. But like playing it as an open world game, she shows up. 20 hours go by. I forget she exists. People talk about her. I forget she exists. Then she do the Hikaru mission. She shows up. I'm like, oh yeah, you exist. Then another 40 hours go by, and then I do the thing that kind of just happens, and then she shows up again. And then depending on how you play it, she can be there for a bit longer. But it's like what I'm trying to get by is that I needed the game's narrative to breathe more, and it's exploring its sci-fi topics. I needed more time with Farah Zenith. I needed to see them more of a threat than just Aloy and her friends in a bunker talking about, oh man, what's going on with Farah Zenith? Varl, what's your opinion on Farah Zenith? Aaron, you have an opinion on Farah Zenith? I'm like, I need more of that.
How about them crazy base people? Yo, yeah, damn.
So in terms of Regala, I'm of two minds, right? Like I liked her character. I didn't enjoy her character. I thought her motive was kind of just like, all right, this seems kind of weird, until you realize that she's in partnership with Silent. And it's like, okay, now this makes sense in terms of how she's getting.
Not even in partnership with Silent.
Well, he's pulling the strings essentially. But like, I think for me, I think my main thing with Regala was that like there's a little one too many people doing like attacking the tribes, because I confused her with, I guess, a Sarah who's like a son of the Prometheus, that all that stuff. Like I was like, okay, well, this person, like the person who was pulling the strings for the rebel like bases, like that makes sense that would be Regala, because when we saw her, she attacked the tribes, and like to me, like that that's how I connected to. So like beating Asara, I was just like, okay, all right, this is not Regala. And of course, by that time, I knew like the difference between Regala and Asara. But yeah, like that was my main. That was actually my main thing with the game in general. Is just like there's a lot, as Avery said, like there's a lot of stuff just going on. And it's just, if you're not paying attention to the different like terminology they use for different tribes, like you could be very confused in terms of what's happening until you reach to the point you're like, oh, this person, the color of this tribe is very different from the color of this other tribe. I'm like, okay, so now I know like the differences. But
so what you're saying is you're a bigot.
Wow. What? I mean, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that they need more descriptive names. You know what I mean?
They all look the same to you, DJ?
Oh man. Okay, so you had anything to add to that, John?
Nah.
Okay. Nah. Yeah, in terms of the Zero Dawn story compared to this, I really enjoyed the Zero Dawn story, and I thought like that revelation was just like chef kiss. It was amazing. It was just like, oh, everything falls into place at the end. It's just like Aloy's Elizabeth Sobek. Oh my god, this is crazy. I enjoyed this story for a very. I felt like for me, I could see them, you know, spitballing ideas for this game, and I understood. I can understand why they were just like, all right, we can't necessarily just keep it as like, all right, Aloy is just trying to figure out the whole Gaia situation. Yeah, because like I feel like they would have this would have just been a two-parter then, because Aloy would have got Hephaestus, put it in Gaia, and Gaia, I'm like, all right, well, we're good now. We can figure out the whole climate change issue, and everyone
that would have
can
been
just
fine. That's what they're gonna do with God of War. But I hear you.
Yeah. But like I liked the whole idea of, oh yeah, let's talk about let's kind of play around with the idea of that spaceship that was kind of just a footnote in the first game, and like let's change that up a little bit and like see what we can do with that. And like I think what they did with this really worked, and it's really cool, and it was very unexpected for me, and I enjoyed that. Like I like when there are surprises like this in games. So all right. Speak mouse. All right. Let's talk about the highlights. What stood out to you two the most, the second most, and the third most, the most triplets? Sean, you go. Anything. It could be graphics, it could be characters, it could be story, it could be stabbing robots in the heart, whatever. Just go for it.
I love the flying.
Okay. And that's new for this game.
It may not be a highlight for some people, but some of the stuff you're able to do if you experiment around with the flying is I'm not gonna say amazing, but it's really satisfying.
You can say amazing. It's okay. We won't shun you.
So when you jump off of your Sunwing, like you can use that during missions. It will circle around kind of in the sky, waiting for you to latch back onto it. As Avery let me know. This was in the Dark Knight when I don't know if everybody's seen that, but when Batman kind of latched on from the plane from the building midair or whatever the hell he did, you can do that with Aloy. I don't know if you got to the actually you had to do that. The EMP that you dropped.
Yeah.
That was super satisfying, but they're spread all over the world where those Titans are, which by the way, I'm curious to see those in action. I wish they would do like a flashback of some sort. But
yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
You can keep on picking up the EMPs. They respond immediately. So I think there's one mission, and this is the second time I saw the Far Zenith base. There's one mission where you have to take on a Thunderjaw and a Tremortusk, which is I guess T-Rex and an elephant.
Yeah.
How the hell am I supposed
if you say it like that
at the same time? But I just kept on circling back around to go get the EMP and just kept on dropping it on them. That's just kind of satisfying.
So the EMP, because like when I got the flying, when I got the Sunwing, it was essentially at the end of the game. So I really just flew like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So the EMP itself, does it work like, I mean, I imagine it wouldn't be like OP like in that cutscene where she drops the EMP and she just obliterates all the robots.
No, it's literally just it does a electric shock to them and stuns them for maybe slightly longer than normal.
Okay. So another question about flying.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't figure out how to do this because this game is just filled with button prompts all over the controller. Can you jump off of the Sunwing in the middle of the air?
Yes. And then you can glide down. The very first time I forgot to open up my glider and I died. I was like, oh, this is amazing, Splat.
Funny enough, I just real quick side tangent. I want to shout out the accessibility options for this game because they are great. I actually forgot to mention in the Discord chat, but like I changed up a couple of settings. So there is a setting where you can turn on all of the you press the focus button, it shows you like a little icon like, oh, this is a plant. Yeah. So you can turn that on. So you can have like a good like
permanently
20 feet radius around Aloy, and they'll just like pop up the show like, oh, there's a chest here, there's a resource here, there's a resource there. So I didn't have to.
I don't want all that stuff clutter on my screen.
No, it's actually not bad.
Stop appropriating disabled culture, DJ.
What? Hey, that's why we have automated doors. Anyways, the other thing about the glider, I have it set that it will activate. Yeah, no. Well, yeah, I have the tap on, but it will activate immediately if I'm falling for too long. So there was one point where like I was falling, I was just like, fuck the buttons, and then it just popped. I was like, oh, cool, thanks, game. All right, continue. Sorry.
I don't think I have any other. I mean, just seeing immediately when I saw Far Zenith, I was like, "Oh, we going to space."
Mm-hmm. Oh.
But then I'm guessing that would be jumping the shark, maybe.
Yeah.
So they're not going to do that. I guess they're going to keep it grounded.
Well,
But,
it's one of those things where, as someone who likes to pay attention to the construction of narrative and design and things, and like, okay, there's obviously going to be a part 3. How are they going to justify this world again in a part 3? So this is spoilers for the end of the game. One of the things they do, which I think is one of the game's coolest scenes, is when Aloy and her sister Beta, who we'll talk about in a second, which I think is one of the sci-fi ideas that is probably they add into this game. I think it's probably the most interesting. Is they have a conversation in secret, and the reveal of what they were talking about is that Beta has unleashed Hephaestus within the Far Zenith base, and Hephaestus immediately uses the Far Zenith like digital printer to just make giant robots and it's like it's such an amazing scene to see like a Thunderjaw and the Slaughter Spine and like a Tremorcast just randomly pop out and just run over the specters.
Yeah.
It's such a cool scene. But then
it's like, oh, this is a lot quicker. Oh, let me.
And then immediately afterwards, someone points out that, Hephaestus is just going to run away, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know. We'll just find him again. And I'm like, oh, so that's how they're going to justify how they're going to keep on adding new crazy machines for the next Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Then when you beat Far Zenith, like I'm sitting there going like, okay, there needs to be this can't be the end of your franchise because you can't do this and then go back to, all right, we're just going to find Hephaestus. Okay, then they reveal the actual threat, and I'm like, this is a bit too far.
I loved it.
That's a bit too far.
Man.
I think one of my least favorite sci-fi tropes is like, one of my favorite sci-fi tropes is AI actualization. The idea that we could create life and that life could recognize that it's alive. That's one of my favorite types of stories.
Okay.
One of my least favorite is the extrapolation from that, in which, the life we created has rebelled against us and now we're fighting a machine war or some bullshit. Like, Horizon is already seeped in that narrative in its like formation. So like I don't have a problem with that. And like the existence of Nemesis actually makes sense, and like people who say it comes out of nowhere, like you kind of weren't paying attention when Far Zenith first showed up in the game. They pretty much tell you, "Oh, we didn't send the fucking code that made all the AI go." Released Hades, called the AI going crazy. So like in the back of my mind is like there has to be another threat to have done that. Reveal Nemesis. It's just Nemesis being this like nebulous cloud of a killer AI floating in
emotions
space.
And memories.
It's just like it's weird. Like it's like, and I think why it's weird is that ultimately it's gonna get into a giant robot and I'm gonna have to fight that giant robot. So I'm like, it's just a weird idea that I'm just waiting for them to figure out. And then the last bit is that when they introduce the Quen, they introduce the rest of the world. So in a world where Horizon has gone from one side of the United States to the other side of the United States, they could conceivably now explore different parts of the map now that Aloy has both the ability of flight, and we've introduced another culture across the world, and remember that the rest of the world exists and that boats are things as well.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. In terms of my highs for this game, I absolutely love the robot design. The graphics was a big like they're amazing. They're amazing, and they hold up for the entire game. There was one NPC. I mean, I didn't see all the NPCs, so I didn't do all the quests because I was kind of mainlining it at a certain point. But there was just one NPC. I was just like, you don't look too great. Like I don't think they spend enough time on you, my guy. But other than that, all the other NPCs look great. The black people look amazing. Like I am so happy with what they did with just paying attention to how our hair.
You got your black person in the room,
right? Exactly, right. And like Oh man, I absolutely love the black love of Varl and Zoe. Like that was just great. They could sit and just look at a sunset all day, all day.
My rebuttal to that is I indicated across in our group chat.
Yeah.
I love that a lot of Horizon has been like people just wanting to fuck Aloy, and in the game's like first 30 minutes after you get out of the first area, it's like reintroducing the characters who are all still being like, yeah, I want to have sex with Aloy. Sun King shows up for one scene and like, hey, maybe I can come out and hang out with you. So like, that could be nice. Varl shows up, still following me. Aaron, hey, pretty girl. Petra, I am gay, and I'm telling you I'm gay. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm gonna reiterate from my last thoughts. I just want to fuck Varl. That's all I wanted to do was Aloy. I just wanted that choice to fuck Varl. So when I was passed out for an indeterminate amount of time and he moved on to Zoe, I was butthurt, and I felt really and narratively it felt really cool. Wow, it felt really good to watch Aloy get curbed on screen. In that, because like this was like one of my favorite things about this game is that Aloy has always been sort of a frustrating character in that she has main character syndrome, and this game pumps it up to 11 in that she's so determined to complete her main quest that she doesn't like allow herself the chance to the minor things like friendship, romance, fun, those type of things. And I really, really loved the early part of the game where every time she met an old character, they'd be like, hey, yo, Aloy, what the fuck, dude? Why did you just dip on us? Like, my mission. That's fine. You could have just told us bye or explained shit to us. Like, you didn't have to do that.
Not everybody's gonna do that, though. I mean, she's a little different. She's an introvert. She wasn't raised normal.
Yeah.
I agree that Aloy wasn't raised normal, and like I think the way her character tracks makes perfect sense. I'm just glad the game had the foresight to like recognize that certain things she does are not okay. And like one of my favorite things is the emissary situation in which Aloy shows up and she's like, I'm getting through this wall. They're like, no, we're in the middle of like a dense political situation. It's like, no, I'm getting on the other side of that wall. You can't stop me. And I'm like, I'm sitting there going like, Aloy, just wait a second. Wait a second.
I love how she like as you progress through the game, she definitely calms down on the whole like, yeah, no, I gotta go do this now. I don't care about whatever you say. Like she starts to be like, you know what? Okay, what's your problem?
Like it's like the game's C plot is in its really, I think, relatively bad opening cutscene, is that Aloy is like she feels alone. Mm-hmm. And that's like a big part of her life, and the only really connection she has is to this fake mother who's dead. Mm-hmm. And then a big part of this game is it becomes a pseudo Mass Effect where she starts building a cast of characters around her, essentially a team, which is a little bit upsetting that like you don't get to carry those characters outward and like actually like have a companion around with you. Because I think that would mitigate a minor quibble I have at this game, and which is just 2 games in, is Aloy monologuing to herself. I think it would be a lot easier if she was monologuing to another person about situations instead of just talking to herself. That's not here or there. And then that building a team leads to one of my favorite sci-fi ideas of this narrative, and the thing that I think works the most, if a little bit messy, is the introduction of Beta and what that means for Aloy as a character. When Beta first showed up, I immediately knew, oh snap, Aloy's not alone. Oh snap, Aloy has a sister. And then the two actually meet, and Aloy hates this child. Yeah.
Aloy's like, you little bitch.
Right? Why are you a punk, yo? What you been doing?
And I'm like, okay, Aloy, I mean, maybe take a second to understand where she's coming from. Like, your life has been hard, but like, your life hasn't been... You weren't used as a tool. Then you sort of explore the relationship. And then this is where the game gets a little bit messy. But I ultimately like the scene. I think one of the things me and DJ were talking about is that, like, Horizon Forbidden West didn't have a chef's kiss moment of, like, a scene where I'm like, this is well written. And then this is, like, a really cool scene. And it's, like, I think like the scene's burned at the back of my head. The conversation between Aloy and Beta right before Gemini, where Aloy has to convince Beta to come with them to Gemini, and then she shows her Ross, and she sort of explains her life view and why she has the "I'm not going to stop" attitude of like, there's a wall in my way. I'm just figuring out a way around this wall. I don't care. It's not going to stop me. And it's like to bring
it through it.
Yeah, she brings up Ross, and I'm like, oh, this is actually a really cool idea. And then really expounding it forward, that the two of them sort of the two of them as the A and B, so like an alpha and a beta of like what Elizabeth Sobek is. Aloy is that like pragmatic, cold, emotionless Elizabeth Sobek who's just determined to do her mission, and then Beta is sort of like the discarded emotions that never really got to be dealt with, and how those characters instantly balance themselves. When Aloy calls her sister, I think that comes out of nowhere from like a narrative standpoint, and that's where I think like scene is messy.
Feel like someone else called her sister, and then Aloy just kind of took. Was she the first one to say a sister?
Yeah, it's when her and Tilda are talking, and like she's just come out and she's like she just had a conversation with Beta, and she's like, "What I told my sister is between me and her," and I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, like I need a little bit. I think the scene that's supposed to indicate that they're sisters now is when they're fixing Hephaestus together and they have that moment together. But it's not sort of communicated well. That moment comes out a little bit weird to me. But otherwise, I like Beta. And like if I had a favorite part of this narrative, it's the new characters they introduce.
Okay.
Who aren't just
for sure.
Varl and Aaron, and like I'm just super upset that Tanala didn't decide to hang out in my base. I'm like, I'm collecting one of every tribe. We got one of every tribe in this base. And I'm like, oh, Tanala is definitely gonna be my Karja. And then Tanala walks through. They said, oh, yeah, she was here for a second, and then she goes to the other side of the wall, then she does her mission, and then she just leaves. I'm like, you're my girlfriend. You're my
right.
I'm not trying to fuck Varl. I'm trying to fuck Tanala. Like, what's going on?
She wasn't trying to holler at you. She also had a mission of her own.
That's true. Just to talk more about the characters, I'm having a hard time remembering the Tanakh guy name.
Katalo.
Was it? Say it again?
Katalo.
One-armed man?
Yeah. Like he actually ended up being like one of my favorite people in the base. Because it was for me, it was very just like, all right, well, this is gonna be the warrior guy who's just like, I'm gonna beat everything with my strength kind of stuff. And then as you explore more of like what's going on with him, and then like he lost his arm, so he was maimed, and he just like that was a real tough thing for him, and he was just like dealing with it. And like being on that like mission with him where he's like trying to get the parts to get his arm, and he like kind of talk, and it's like, this guy is awesome. And then I love when he got his arm, he used it, and then he immediately took it off. And he's like, nah, this is cool, but like what I am is one arm me. And it's just like, you know what? I respect that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so like one thing that I wanted to say about the robots is I saw a slaughter spine out in the wild, and I did it by complete accident because in the chat, like Avery had said, there is something that's bigger than a Thunderjaw. And when I got over to like one of the sides on the western part of the map, I saw the Tide Ripper just like sitting in the water, just chilling. And I was like, all right, that must be the thing. Like that obviously has to be it. Clearly. So I just kind of, right. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing. It's sitting on the beach. Like that's a problem.
By the way, I like the music for that one.
Oh yeah. That's another thing too. Like the music, man. I was paying attention. I love in this game. So I was just going further west. I got to the Quinn area, and it was like the Ted Faro mission where you had to go to San Francisco by boat or whatever. Yeah. And it was just Slaughter Spine was just chilling on the beach, and I was just like, what is that? Like, what are you? So I scanned it, and I was just like, all right, I'm gonna try to fight this thing. So I laid down some traps because it was like weak to like electric or an acid or whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. Put the traps down. I was like, all right, I'm about to engage the thing. I shot my little dinky arrow at it. It bounced off. It was like, oh, you over there. I was like, hey, let's fight. And it was like, all right, bet. Start charging up. I was like, what are you doing? And it stuck his tail on the ground, and I exploded. And I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna go do the mission. Like, I don't need this. This is not. I'm obviously not.
I don't like that. the Fireclaw, the bear, has this fucking ranged lava attack where the lava just appears under your feet. That's complete bullshit.
You know what? The first time I fought it, like it never did that. So it was doing like the swipe thing and then throwing the rocks. And I was just like,
so
all
you see
right.
what I'm talking about from Frozen Wilds though, where he'll continue to swipe all the way across the map until he gets you.
Yeah.
Here
And I was
you're
like, all
fighting
right.
him in the open world. The first couple times you meet him in Frozen Wilds, you're just in a room. There is nowhere to go.
Oh, yikes. Oh, yikes.
If we're talking about if we're talking about the cheapness of the robots, it's the stalkers who have a one-shot kill weapon equipped to them, and they're invincible. And so I just be running around because there's one tall neck that's like that just has 3 of them in the area, and they're just like they got trapped all over the place. I walk in and I'm like, I get one-shot kills from halfway across the map because this thing is motherfucker's invincible, and its cannon will fucking eat your like health in seconds.
We got critiques. We got critiques for this game, but before we do that, I just want to say one other thing that I really liked about this game was the story beat with Zoe and Aloy after we do the whole like Varl dying in the room with the Xenos people. Fucking hate Gerald. He died, and yeah, I definitely killed him.
You're talking about Eric.
Eric, yes.
Gerald gets killed off screen.
Yes. But yeah, like I absolutely love that scene. Like it was, because when Varl died, and by the time Aloy got back to the base, like I was doing other stuff, so I completely forgot. Like, did they know or whatever? So when I went to the base, I thought it was gonna be like, oh crap, like Aloy's gonna have to tell them that Varl died. But then I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's right. Like they knew because they all had comms or whatever. I absolutely love that scene when Zoe was sitting in front of Varl's like burial area, and like they were talking, and she was like, I'm with child, and I was like, oh, dang it, oh man. And then after that conversation ends, like before Aloy leaves, like Aloy promises like Varl, like I'll protect them, and I was like, you better, Aloy, like you better. But yeah, there was just tons of like little things that I just enjoyed about this game, but like those are the pretty big moments. Okay, so let's to be fair, let's talk about the critiques in this game. I will go first because I was the person that I think I was listening to other podcasts. They're talking about like, oh, the melee in this game is not great, and it really hasn't improved all that much. So I was like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invest into the warrior tree, which is the melee tree, and see exactly how bad the melee in this game is. And it's not terrible. It's not great though. So it's sitting at a respectable to good. As much as I got used to how the melee worked, it still needs to be worked on, and it's kind of frustrating, not the right word, but it's just kind of weird that like there's tons of example or tons of games out there where they have like really, really good like sword melee combat, and it works, and it's just like, use any of those. You can just pull some from Monster Hunter.
They probably didn't want to alienate or change it up from the first game.
But it's not. It's the melee is interesting in this game in that what's interesting about it is it's uninteresting. Like for me, no amount of them making, oh man, melee is good would make me want to do it over traditional bow and weapon combat unless it was objectively better than them. And so they're in a rough spot where like I think they did a good job of making it more how would I say impactful and more like dynamically interesting to actually look at. But it's one of those things where, like, I didn't touch the melee skill tree in this game up until the very end when I really needed to do the melee pits. And that's where I was like, okay, this is fine. This is like, I'm uninterested in doing this. So
here's the thing, right? Oh, go ahead.
No, continue.
Okay. As a person who put in the points for the warrior tree and was trying to focus on melee, I completely agree with you. Like, it is so... just a matter of fact, like, yeah, this is a melee attack that Aloy has. Like, I was saying before the cast, like, if you do a jump into a heavy attack, I think if you miss the heavy attack, you're penalized by like having like just such of just a delay in terms of what you can do next.
Recovery.
And it's just like, yeah, your recovery is just like, it takes her like a whole second or so to get up and start doing that stuff. And just like, why is this so punishing when you don't really see that too much in the bow mechanic? And it's just like, this shouldn't be a thing. Like, it feels like the melee was.
I mean, I think there is. I think they're operating on different systems with the bow versus the melee, in which why the melee would have a stun effect after what you just talked about versus the bow doing that. But continue.
Well, no. The thing is, like, I don't think there should have been a delay in the recovery from the jump melee attack, because it essentially makes you want to be like, all right, well, let me just switch to my bow, and because like I'm way more mobile with the bow and I can just shoot from longer range and so on and so forth. Like I played around a lot with the heavy attack, and like the heavy attack does a good job of not countering, but like tanking through some of the hits, but it doesn't tank through all the hits. And it's kind of weird when it happens and when it doesn't happen. So you just kind of have to play around with it. I hate the fact that the critical strike has no invulnerability frames. Like, that blows my mind that a game created in 20, it doesn't have any invulnerability frames.
I mean, I've done it multiple times while other attacks are going on and not been damaged.
I've been hit out of a lot of critical strikes as Aloy was doing like it blows my mind that those choices were made. And it's just like, all right, you obviously don't want people to play melee in this game. Like you're setting it up.
Okay, then then that explains it. I've never gotten a critical strike from a melee. I've always gotten critical strikes from ranged attacks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like, and the thing is, like, because I'm doing melee, like I'm in the thick of it with the different monsters or different robots. So like, I'm trying to do a critical strike while something is like about to attack me, and I get hit. And I'm just like,
I mean, why would you not get hit though?
No, but that's
hold on, guys. Let me stab your friend in the heart.
But that's where it gets weird though, because you can slow down time when you're switching your weapons. So it's like that should be a thing that's just like they just allow.
I would agree with that if there was weapon switching with melee, but there isn't.
No.
Using melee is literally a punch of a button, while using every other weapon in the game is I need to open up my weapon wheel to pull that weapon out and then push a button.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but like the reason why I pull up the whole idea of like you slow down time when you're pulling out the weapon is that like we're obviously not working on real life situations here. So like you should get you get iframes when you dodge roll. So like you should get iframes when you do your critical strike, because that's a like special attack for
I think it's just risk versus reward. So
but I mean that's the problem. That's the problem though. Like once you realize that you don't get iframes with your critical strike, it's just kind of like what I'll just shoot them with stuff. Like why would I go up and like do a critical strike? Because,
I know you're molding about this, but I think I agree with the Sean's risk versus reward situation. If you're in a situation where you're using melee in the middle of a group of enemies to get a critical, and you're getting a critical strike on one of them, to actually stop to use the critical strike would be the risk, and the reward would be the resulting damage. I understand you want the iframes. I understand you want the iframes, but like I get what the designer's choice was in that
Here's the thing. It's not a risk and reward. It's not a risk and reward, because the reward that you get is less damage than doing using one of your bomb attacks on the down enemy. Like you can
finish them off and you can upgrade your critical strike.
I upgraded the warrior class like very early on. Like I was playing like
everything is not in a warrior class. I think that is in stealth where you upgrade.
Yes, I think it actually is.
When you upgrade the critical?
I think it is.
No, you get
or Silent Strike or whatever, but
Silent Strike is different from Critical Strike. Critical Strike is in the Warrior class.
I'm just saying everything is not in Warrior class. It's strange how
yeah, no.
some of the skills.
Yeah. Like once I like look at the other skills, like Warrior class works well with the Survivor class because you take less damage or whatever. But the problem is like that's not
Critical Strike is in Warrior Tree.
Yeah. The problem is that it's not balanced. Like that's my hang up because playing with the bow and arrow is like, oh, this feels good. Like this feels really, really smooth. Like although it takes some time to craft the emblems after you use it, like it still kind of works and it works well. Whereas the melee class still feels like a tacked on thing. Like you don't get any upgraded like staffs or anything. Like where you see the enduring person, like she has a like fucking like broadsword kind of thing. Like Regala has her own little thing. Like there's different melee weapons out there, but none of them is used with Aloy. And it's just kind of like, all right, well, this is just it doesn't feel great. Other than that, that was my main critique in terms of the melee combat. Climbing is for some reason always weird in this game. I'll say like Avery, when you said that, like, oh, you can just kind of jump through stuff. I started doing that, and like it.
I had a much fun. I had a much better time. Like it's like I know you're talking about this as a critique as like a bad thing. I love that the jank is still there. That if you want to just actually use what the game is like the path the game gives you to get up things, that's fine. It's sort of a puzzle to where can I grab to, where can I jump to. But if there is even a slight change in elevation between one rock to the next, my ass will jank my way up there, and it's much faster than doing the actual climbing. And I just love doing that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like once you said about the whole jumping thing, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like I started jumping everywhere. Like the times where I was climbing, it was just like, all right, I guess I have to climb here. But like a lot of times, it's just like I'm just going to jump up this mountain. Like I don't like the climbing.
I like one thing that they implemented. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, you're fine.
After a certain point, you don't have to do that shit anymore. You have the bird. You can actually just drop in on shit.
See, yeah, that would be awesome. Like that's an upgrade that I wanted very, very early on because there was a bunch of times where it's just like, all right, game, where you would reach up to a point and you have another climb point, like right, yeah, and like it won't go up, and it's
for me.
Like,
for me, that's the thing that made me uninterested in the climbing. In that, why put these 4 climbable parts to this wall if you're then just going to put a hook, a pulley caster hook, at ground level that I can just jump to? I don't see the point of doing both. Like, why would someone do both?
Yeah. Totally agree. Like it's one of the things where like I love the pull caster for that, where it's just like, okay, I can like kind of shortcut a lot of this. I wish there was a mechanic where you could like use like a type of arrow or something where you can shoot into the wall and like you'll have your own like little pull casting with
all
that.
Right, Batman.
I mean, like she has arrows that can make the enemies go berserk. Like give me a harder arrow that I could just throw into the wall. I can just use that.
I think this one of the issues with the climbing in this game is that one of the critiques of the first Horizon Zero Dawn, to no fault of its own self, is that Breath of the Wild came out and they had their climb anywhere. So people just kept getting angry at Horizon for not letting you climb anywhere. And I'm like,
and you play Genshin as well.
No, and the thing is, no.
I don't even think he's having that problem because like, it's an actual design issue in Forbidden West. In that, so their idea is that like, oh, we want to gate our open world, and at the same time make climbing a puzzle and not just a thing you can do. So like, there's a lot of weird design issues in the climbing because they're trying to fit the Breath of the Wild audience who's still angry at this game for not just letting you climb everything. And I'm just like, I'm fine with not climbing everything.
Yeah.
This is a unpopular Zelda critique, but I don't find the climbing in Breath of the Wild fun anyway. Like,
yeah, no.
So like,
and really and truly, like, I totally agree with that in terms of like Genshin, where like because it pulls it directly from like Zelda, it is thinking like, oh, you can climb anything, but it's just like, I don't. it takes so long because you're dealing with the whole stamina thing. Like, yeah.
It's not fun. I'd rather be able to hang on this wall for fucking ever and figure out how I'm supposed to get up than climb halfway up and realize, oh, I don't have enough stamina to get up here. Oh well, fuck that shit.
Any other critiques? Yeah, any other critiques going on?
I've talked about some of mine, and it was sort of like the messiness of the story in regards to its sci-fi plot and how they fucking drop 50 on you. But I think that's relatively subjective. I need to have a more critical breakdown of the actual beats of the story unmarred from the open world. The open world I have an issue with in that I don't like how quests are doled out in this game. I think one of my biggest issue in open world games is like generally how boring they can quickly become, and I default to fast traveling all over the place because I don't see the need to like actual walk around. Horizon is interesting in that I think it has one of the best open world designs ever, and I think like you go, no matter where you go, you're finding an interesting machine. That you can fly or an interesting encounter, and like the locales are so diverse and beautiful that you're never just trudging through. I'm in the 15th grassland or the 20th swamp. It's like it's even better.
Like I'm in the red grass area versus the green grass area.
Yeah, it's like it's even better than the first game, which had as someone once described it, as the Mario 1 level design, where okay, here's your winter area, and it goes suddenly into a grass area, then it goes suddenly into a desert area, and I'm like, now the levels sort of flow into each other, and that like, oh, I'm in this foresty area, oh, it's opening up into a jungle-ish area, which opens up into a swamp, which opens up into a beach, and everything feels like it has an interesting design language to, which is really good. My issue is that ultimately there's nothing really to do, and at a certain point in the game, especially like I don't need to really collect shit. So like, there's not. I don't really.
You're just running to the next mission, essentially.
I'm just running to the next mission, and like I really wish the game didn't do this in terms of its quest design. In that like, quest design in this game boils down to I walked into Plain Song. Cool. There are 3 green dots. Those are the quests I'm getting, and I'm going elsewhere. I really wish it had a more dynamic quest situation where, like, you'd be walking around and then you would encounter an event that would trigger a quest. And, like, you can argue that would be a lot more work and then you'd miss a lot of content. But the game has, like, scattered across the area, places where people just sit down and tell you rumors. And they tell you shit about the map. So if you're gonna miss
content regardless.
they're recognizing, oh, you might miss this thing, and so we're gonna tell you where it is. And I'm like, there's one literally outside your base. Tell me, there's a weird energy signature to the lower end of the map. Maybe you should check that out, champion. I'm like, fine, do that. Don't instead being like, I am in Plain Song, like this just random NPC. Hey, champion, can you do this weird energy signature? I think my other is the one of this game's best features is its allies, and it's really cool. And when they're having Mass Effect conversations with each other, I'm like, this is really great, but it doesn't go far enough. I remember when I saw in the original trailers for this game, and like where they prominently showed Varl and Aaron, I was like, oh, we're gonna have companions. And then we play the game, and like, yeah, they can tag along, but they don't really do anything. And then you don't get to really experience the game with them. And I think that's sort of like a missed opportunity to, one, explore Aloy more as a character, and B, explore them more as a characters. Because like honestly, you outside of like mission objectives, you really don't need to go back to your base at all. So like all of that stuff there is relatively optional, and like you're missing out some really interesting character stuff with like a character we haven't really talked about, who I think is probably next. Beta is my favorite concept in the game, but Alva is my favorite new character in the game. I find like her curiosity, and then like her like humility, and then like how she sort of navigates everything, every other aspect of the world, very interesting. And then she just has a more differing personality than everyone else in the game. That it's a really great like clash when she joins your group, and everyone's like, "Hey, yo, man, this new girl's kind of weird." And then you meet her, and I'm sitting there going out, I'm like, "How?" they don't understand what we've been through. we saw the ghost of Ted Farrell. They don't understand what we've been through.
The ghost. Right. We saw Ted Farrell.
That okay. So that's another. That's actually.
I really wish they would show that on screen.
Yes, like man, when that
game
whole thing was
Resident Evil.
Yeah, right. is that the actual Nemesis? But yeah, like when that was unraveling, and you're just like, oh no, he's still alive. And then like they do the whole off screen thing. I was like, oh come on, guys.
I thought here's the thing. That I love the entire theme sequence. I love the Quan and all of that arc with San Francisco. I thought when the CO showed up, like, oh, Ted Farrell also made a clone of himself.
Yeah,
like, I don't have a reference of what Ted Farrell really looks like. And like, nah, just some crazy dude who calls himself the ghost of Ted Farrell. I'm like, all right.
That's when I was like, oh, this is hitting on religious themes.
Oh yeah, for sure. The whole like the CO thing was just like that was also just like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like they're gonna see these titles and not understand like it's CEO and not CO, and they're like, oh no, I'm CO now. So
it's not like it's not. They're like, oh yeah, we're named as the wings of the tens. We're the Tanakh. Then like,
oh, okay.
Yo, man, I absolutely love I love little things like that when they're able to pull stuff from our current time and just kind of twist it and like, oh, this is how it could be perceived like in the future where people have absolutely no relation or it's like it's really cool. All right, let us jump into the ending. Avery talked about it a little bit before. I'm coming hot off of this, right? Because I just beat this game. I absolutely love this ending. As my AKA said, was my AKA? No, it's not my AKA. As I said earlier in the podcast, like next game is going to be Horizon Destiny because the nemesis is the darkness, and I was just like, oh man, like so in Destiny. Yeah, so in Destiny, the darkness that the traveler is running from, essentially, this is a warped version of that, where like the Zeniths are the traveler, and they come to this world, and instead of helping them, they're just like, oh, these are a bunch of savages. I mean, we need to turn this into our own ideal world to figure out Nemesis or whatever. Whereas like in the game or in Destiny, like the darkness is this force that is after the traveler. So when they did this whole like, when Tittle was like, oh yeah, this Nemesis thing is like a amalgamation of like our memories and emotions is coming after us because it hates us, and it's just like, okay, I like where this is going. The only thing that like I was just kind of not sure about is like, what's the time scale they got to work on? Because when Silence showed the projector, it seemed like it was in the same orbit as.
I think it was just showing a projected path.
Yeah, but like it looked like it was in. Our solar system. So it's just
I think they have the exact same time frame they had from the last game. In that, like Aloy talks about like how like I need when Guy is talking about it's going to take as much time, like I want to say 3 to 6 months for that thing to get here, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because like they're also dealing with the fact that Guy doesn't have Hephaestus, so she can't actually fix the world. AKA, so the world is still on its teetering. We're going to die out in about 6 months. So that's the time frame we're working with. I like the ending. I think the ending to this game is much better, like mechanically, than the first Horizon, which is like, all right, everyone gather at this area and just fight the same enemy you fought before. Like, except there's 3 of them this time. But this one is like, okay, a long narrative sequence, a unique boss fight into another unique boss fight, and whether the fight itself you like it, that's neither here or there. I think it's fine. I was overpowered the entire game, so it's like none of these fights were any like I can't even really critique whether the fights are good because I kind of just ran over them. But I've already talked about not liking. It's not like I don't like the Nemesis reveal. I just think it's way too nebulous at this point for me to like actually care about it. I think it's a shame that there are no more Zeniths because like that was something that like I was fascinated about.
They're on the Odyssey in space.
No, I don't think so. I think they all came down to Earth.
Oh.
Like Silence was going to go to the Odyssey and just dip.
Oh, you're right.
So like there couldn't have been Xenophs there, and then like everyone's like, "Oh, the Xenophs are gone." So like that's just a sci-fi idea that you just threw in there like a bomb, and it's just gone now. It's just nebulous. Like, it's
also, I'm sorry, just to jump in, like Silas' idea not properly thought out because he doesn't have immortality, so he would have got on the ship and like, all right, I'm gonna go to Jupiter.
On the ship more than likely.
Honestly,
the knowledge would have been on the ship. Apollo was on the ship.
But the thing is, like, I feel like, oh yeah.
No, I think if we're talking about ending things, I think the biggest cop out is Silas just saying, "Oh, I want to stay. I'm staying here." No,
actually, kind of like that because I think it was a thing where he just realized, like, all right, well, if I go to this ship, like, the Xenas have the technology to track the ship, so like, even if I run, like, what am I gonna do by myself? Like,
well, it's like my thing is. It was so uncharacteristic for him to just be like have a plan, have this be his entire plan to get this because he knew about Nemesis the entire time, didn't say anything. AKA Silence is one of my least favorite characters in this game because he keeps just doing shit and then getting angry when you're angry at him. And like I'm angry at Aloy for not just stabbing him every time he shows up and being like, I understand what you're doing, Silence. No, he fucking sacrificed you like 15 times in this game. It's kind of wrong. This is dumb, but long story. But like him coming back, and it's just like it's because he's not a very open character. There's actually no explained reason why he decided to stay. You're just as a reader, just trying, the watcher, just trying to infer why he chose to stay. And I can't think of a reasonable answer that will work with this character who's done all this shit in this game.
I got it.
It's not that he wants
on the ship. He's stepping on the ship. He's like, I'm just fucking with y'all. I don't know how to fly no spaceship. I'm just fooling.
he gets on the ship. He's like,
now it's even more awkward that like I sent all the people I actually like and care about off to the far winds to like warn everyone about Nemesis, and it's just me, my sister, and this weird black guy who I can't trust.
Around blacks, never relax.
Oh my gosh!
You know what I'd like to see in the next game?
Go ahead.
I'd like to see Nemesis touchdown, and Aloy is like, "Hey, I took care of our Nemesis for you." He's like, "All right, good jobs, bro."
Right? Yeah, like what I want to see for this next game. Well, so just to I guess answer, like this ending totally like did it for me. Like I really just enjoyed what they did and like the surprises that just kind of hit even at the end game. In terms of, I really hope they have longer than 3 to 6 months for this whole Nemesis thing. Like I want this next game to be a time jump, maybe like a few years, because like it seems like if they only have 6 months, like it's gonna be kind of hopeless. Like I really hope that the next game
it was hopeless for them fighting the Far Xenophs, and Aloy found a way to stop them. My thing is that.
Well, wait. Silent found a way to stop them. Not Aloy.
Silence's plan wouldn't have worked.
Well, no. I'm just talking about his technology. Like him having that EMP thing, like that was clutch. And like Tilda wasn't about giving Aloy any kind of like, yeah, this is how our shield works. Here, take this shield, use this shield or something. Nah. But like,
it's so weird. There's not a legendary like armor in the game like there was in the last one. I went through half this game thinking I was going to get like a Far Zenith outfit, and then like that was going to be the legendary armor, and then like, okay, I guess it's not.
Maybe deal.
Could be, but like, yeah, like I really hope there's a time skip because I want them to have one. I want to see how they're going to connect the world essentially, because I guess everyone seems to get focused. I don't know. It just I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm interested to see like what they do and how.
There's going to be a time skip, but it's not going to be a year-long time skip. It's going to be a months-long time skip. Because one of the issues I have with this game, and this is not the game's fault, it's just video games in general, is that its sense of time is fucking warped. And that this game takes place over like a couple of months. relatively, but like the way you play it, it feels like narratively it's over like a week top. A week tops. It's like, but like it like because you literally travel from like fucking Minnesota to fucking San Francisco by foot. So like the game takes place over a long period of time, but because the video games the map has to be truncated, so it doesn't feel like time passes that much. But yeah, we're gonna get a time skip. We're gonna get a time skip of a couple of months, probably 4 to 5, I'm guessing, and by that time, theoretically, all her side characters will have been able to get the word out. So you're going to get that connecting the world bit. My interest is if we're going to explore, and I think we're going to, explore other continents over the world. Because it's very interesting. The Quen come from another. Like one of the interesting concepts about Zero Dawn that just never occurred to me because the game was centered in America, which is already a melting pot, is that what do other cultures like? What does a Japan look like if not everyone is culturally Asian? Or what does a Nigeria look like if everyone's not culturally African?
Yeah.
Of course, you would point out Nigeria.
I'm not from Nigeria, so
I'm fucking with you. No, I wanted to point this out. I said this while I was playing it. I was like, this game reeks or just reminds me of American exceptionalism and the power of friendship from anime. Just how she could just do any fucking thing, and now she has her friends, and she can do even more than anything.
Hey,
I mean, yeah.
So like, yeah, I think the months time skip could work. I think ultimately what I want to see is I want to see right now there's a spaceship that's in orbit. They're probably not going to touch that. They have all this Farzinic tech that
I mean they probably will touch that as just an environment you explore later on.
Well, when I say touch that, I mean like in terms of essentially scrapping it for parts. So like they have all this Farzinic tech that like could be used to upgrade their weaponry and like skills and stuff. So I would like to see an Aloy that is like in the next game, an Aloy that is
using lasers.
Not even lasers, but like just way more like taking the next step essentially. Like I want to see like how they use this tech that they have now and just kind of propagate that.
Her tech is already fucking insane. The fact that like you have both a invisibility gauntlet and a mini shield at all times is kind of insane.
I want more, Avery. I want more.
Are you the same animal but different beast?
I love that.
What I really hope though is that when this Nemesis thing hits, it doesn't just infect the wildlife or the robot wildlife, and it's just like the same thing like that Hades is doing. Like I want to see a different like enemy type, different art style with this thing because we don't know what it looks like. Like we have an idea of like Farzina's stuff, but like
if I'm just spitting out of what I think of the cadence of this game, its design, we're gonna get 20 different new enemy types in terms of machines that are just going to drop on top of the other 20, like 50 that we have in this game, which is one of those insane things that like every robot from the last game, which were relatively a lot, it's still in this game, plus like 20 new ones. I'm like, okay, there's a lot there, to the point where like, I haven't seen a watcher in this game, and like, oh, they're just on the other side of the map, and they're just, but like, we're gonna get 20 of those. I don't think we're going to get like a brand new enemy type in per se, like a new enemy group. We're probably, if anything, we're going to get like specters in that like the Nemesis will have its own unique enemy unit, but we're not going to get a brand new enemy type.
I really hope so, because like I really love the contrast between like the robots in the wild and then what the specters look like, and it's just like, oh my god, this is so different. This is so cool. Like I hope we get
it also
level to that.
Doesn't make, at least from a, I'm thinking about this from a like in-world thing, especially since this is why fucking Nemesis is so goddamn nebulous and why I have an issue with that, is that like without any context to like what it really is, I don't know, I can't like prescribe what its design ethos would be in terms of
like how it's going to attack or do anything.
So like in my head, it's just I'm going to create one overpowered thing and I'm just going to throw it at you over and over again if I can.
That's true. We'll see though. We'll see. We'll have some time to to wait for it and speculate more. So, all right. To wrap this up, there's only 2 questions to ask. What would you rate this game out of 10? And would you press X on it? Sean.
I would give it a 9 out of 10, as indicated as earlier. I would press X on it a few times. I'm not sure what would push it to a 10 out of 10. I don't think I have a game that is a 10 out of 10. So this is pretty high.
Okay. Avery?
8.5. I would press X on it. For me to get it to a 10 out of 10, it would have had to have a dynamic quest. A lot of its activities wouldn't have to be just kind of meaningless bullshit that like kind of just like so ancillary to the game that like they don't need to be there because they're not even really executed that well. Those would not have to be there. I think there would have to be more breathing with the story, and the game would have to dynamically be a better game like than Horizon, instead of this game ultimately feels like Horizon 1.5. Like the 0.5 is all the extra shit they add on top of it, which is really fun and really new and interesting. But like it still fundamentally in its bones feels like this is just more Horizon.
Gotcha. Yeah, I am at a 9 out of 10 with this game. I will definitely press X on it. What would get this game to a 10 for me is I like the interactivity of Aloy with the different robots and stuff. I kind of wish that there was another step forward. Like I wish, like Monster Hunter, you can use the pull cast to
pull on monsters or some shit.
Yeah, like attach yourself to monsters and like do all that kind of crazy stuff. I think between that and just kind of just touching up on some of the open world aspects, like I think some more polish could go into the combat scenarios, how Aloy is attacking, and how essentially just tighten that stuff up and make it, for lack of better words, just better. Because like I enjoy the combat in this game, but it does feel a little not unfinished. It just sometimes doesn't feel great. It just doesn't feel great sometimes. Like I'm just like, all right, I don't really
got to put a little bit more care into the melee you're saying, basically.
Yeah, and then to put a bow on it, I want to see elemental reactions. I want to see, like, we in one of the last podcasts that we're talking about, like me and Marcus was talking about how, or like, actually this is his story. He was saying that he was fighting a Snapmaw and he saw that it was weak against electricity. So it was in the water. He's like, all right, bet I'm gonna shoot this electric arrow into the water and just like zap the thing. And of course it didn't do anything.
And it's just like dogma for that.
That's true. A man of class, I see. But
more Breath of the Wild.
Well, Dragon's All One did it too. But yeah, but like, is that like Breath of the Wild called? I mean, anyways, I want to see that kind of interactivity because I think that would allow for a deeper like play style in terms of like, all right, I'm going to do acid and then I'm going to do fire. I'm going to do this and that. Like, I want to see that. And I think if those steps were taken in this game, that would probably put it at a 10 out of 10 for me. But yeah. All right. I think we did it, guys. I think we did it. All right. Well, this has been Press X Review Horizon Forbidden West. We hope you enjoyed this review so much as we enjoyed playing the game and talking about it. In case you missed anything, you can find all details and more on our website at pressx2start.com. Until next time, we'll be at some point we'll figure out how we're going to talk about Elden Ring. That's going to be fun.
We'll talk about that 6 months from now when we all beat it.
Right. We'll talk about it 6 months from now when you guys all beat it.
Right.
We all.
Don't include me in that. I'm on track to beat this game by maybe 2 weeks from now.
All right. We'll see. All right, y'all. Peace out and be safe.